Hey team, hey, how you doing? Hey, this is Admin from PlexGuide. So quickly in this video, I'm just going to talk a little bit about how the main core menus work. This might be helpful for some of you who are trying to just understand some basic Ansible or a little bit of coding, and just to give you some insight of some of the things that we do. Um, the good thing about understanding this core menu piece is that for some reason, if you need to make modifications or make menus for a forked version to contribute back to the project, it will definitely help you by utilizing this. So menus eventually will be going away. This is a lot of the blue stuff that you can see is shrinking. But right here is where I'm doing a core and an interface type thing. And if some of you read the message, I said that the menu is almost like the programs now. So now I basically have like core files and I have basically like variables passing through. So for some programmers out there, you could say it's almost like a function in a sense. So the problem I ran into is that here is the traditional menus. So originally PlexGuide has transformed so many times. The original was Bash, and then Bash and Blue menus, and then Bash Blue menus with Ansible, and like I said, it just kind of kept evolving. So you notice here that I have a menu for each type of thing, and the problem I had is that each time I needed to make a new menu for something, I had to like duplicate this and make sure all the values were right. And then sometimes the experience wasn't consistent. So for example, let's go to something that's just a little bit simpler. So let's go to menu move. So you can see here that I had templates, tasks, and scripts, and this and if you look here, you see how templates is not here. So the problem was these menus were not consistent. So the menus basically had information within them that basically executed functions, which is not good. It's something that I should have separate. So you can see like the inconsistencies of, you see how like there's all this here and it's just different file names. So the inconsistencies is what can just kind of drive you mad over time if there's any errors or any issues. So instead of having all these random funky files, what we did was I created a core, and this was the part that drove me nuts a little bit at first, is like how to develop it. So the first thing we wanted to do is we want to create a kind of like a selection YML. So basically, when you guys are looking at the menu, this is what you're seeing right here. So if I type PlexGuide, the main menu that you're seeing right now is not this yet. It's option 10 and 11. Eventually the rest of the menus will go. So I'm just trying to show you a little bit of this. And again, this might be good for you for learning purposes. So let's go to 10. And it should load up. So here you notice there's the lines, and you can see that there's a head 1, head 2. Head 2 is blank, so right now that's the reason why it doesn't push down. And then you can see how it goes to info 1 through 7. Now in the future you may see up to 12. Right now I haven't had to do this, but the point is that the question you may ask here is like, well, how does all this get filled in and how does everything work correctly? So if I go to 1 exit interface, you notice that it exits the interface. Works, right? If I go to, let's see something different here. Now some of these menus are still blue going in here, but let's say download path. You see right there? So you notice it did take me to the right area. So the question you may ask is like, well, how did all that work? So no, leave. And you notice that it loops back. So doing this all in Ansible is a little bit of a pain, but I got it working. Created my own custom solution. This was nowhere on the web except prompts, which are pretty generic, but nobody really had this. So the first thing is that when you're executing this program, what it's really doing is it's executing this script right here. It starts with main, right? So right now, the choice starts off as dummy. It's basically just making sure that the variable exists. And for example, there's a keyword break. We don't want break to be the last variable because every time you come to a menu, it just will obviously break. Here is where you type a choice. So yeah, anyways, we'll pass into the next thing. So the key thing really here is this menu right here, this loop that's really right here. This is the menu that kind of drives everything. So you could say, okay, so if you understand what a while is, basically keep saying, keep doing this until this is no longer keep doing this until this is true. So right now, while it's basically saying is if whatever selected does not equal break, keep doing. See, there's a word do, keep doing, just keep repeating. So you notice that in here, if I type 2 download path, and it may not really be apparent to you, but you'll see it in a loop. See, it's technically in front of you. It's looping. You just really don't realize that. So, but what happens is when I pick 1, what's going to happen is the keyword break is going to get inserted, and it breaks out of this menu. See, so you're looking at the while menu. So the first thing it's doing is it's looking up the final choice. Well, the final choice right now is dummy because it started off. This is just a start off word, dummy. So basically now it's kicking off Ansible core selection YML. So that's this baby right here. So if we go here, we're going to look in. So it's executing as a solo script. It's going to say, hey, you know, what was the choice? What were the facts? So for example, when you type, let's go back here. When you type a number, what happens is it stores it as a choice. So it comes in here. It's like, hey, bring this up. So 2 is now menu temp. And this is the little bit of a confusing part, but it's going to recall itself and go into the variable called menu, no longer menu temp. So if you haven't really played with Ansible, it's a little bit confusing, but the problem is that if I didn't do this, if I just made register menu, everywhere I write stuff, I have to put menu st'd out. It's just go with it. But because I'm recalling this and I'm storing it into menu like this, what happens is in the future, I can just do menu. I don't have to do st'd out everywhere. So that's the only thing that drives me nuts about Ansible. So right now it's taking a fact and it's saying, hey, take all these variables. So right now, this is the default variable that's always going to exist for number 1. So you'll notice that it's right there. See? Then you'll notice that it's blanking out the rest of them. Ansible will throw a hissy fit if a variable doesn't exist. So if I remove these right here and then I execute this program, Ansible is going to complain saying, hey, I don't see info 76543. Why? Because they exist to some extent. See? They exist down here. So right now, they're all blank except info 1. So now it's going to launch container primary information. So it's going to launch another thing. Yeah, you see how fun this gets? So it's going to back out. So right now we're in core. So it's going to back out. Then it's going to go to interface. And then it's going to go to whatever the menu was in choice. So right now we have settings, right? So it's going to look at the choice YML. You see right here? Starting to see how that's starting to look familiar? So there's head 1, head 2 is blank, and you can see 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. See right there? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that's how you're getting your information. So the next thing you're going to run into is like, okay, I see information there, but how does this get to doing something? And again, there was no methods to any of this. This was all just figuring this crap out. So right now we're in settings, and trust me, I even get a little lost looking at this too. So you notice that in settings, I have very minimal menus. So there is some functionality, but they're very minimal. That's the key. You notice that when I went to this one area, there wasn't like 80,000 files like in the other one. So let's go back to core. And this is why core matters a lot. So basically, you executed this. So now you're out of it. Now it's going to execute that file sh. So you see how it says program again? So the program right now that we're in is going to be settings. So where are we at? Or not core, interface, settings. There we go. So there's file sh. So here's file sh, and then basically it's going to call up the final choice. So for example, we picked the number 2, and then you see how it says, okay, if this equals 2, then go ahead and do this, bash this script. So that's how you're seeing that hard drive thing, see? And you're like, oh, cool. Okay, got it. So in 3, you can see that it's going to execute the processor menu. So if I do 3, and you see how there's the menu for that. So yeah, it's a little, so you notice it's still again running in that loop because these are if statements. So what happens is, as long as it does not equal 1, which is break, then keep looping and keep executing whatever's there. So now we're going to go back to this YML. So it's done with this. It's going to recall the menu number. It's doing all this number stuff. So here's something that's a little interesting. You're like, well, why don't you set choices between 1, you know, if user input. So basically it's going to run a loop if you make a number too big. So like if I type 8 here, You notice right now it's just going to keep looping. Well, in choices, I originally had choice user input anything that's greater than 0 and less than 9. For some reason, some of you may be smarter than me, understand this, that if I typed anything bigger than 4, it just didn't work. So once you type 5, the whole thing would just flake out. I don't understand what it is about Ansible, if it's something with the number scheme or something with the keyboards, but I literally had to be very specific. So you see this number select thing? You see right here where it says echo 7 and the number. So when you start this whole settings program, you notice that there are 7 menu choices. It's going to execute this thing almost pretty much first. So that's how it knows to go to 7. So right now, it's going to go to 1, 7. So right now, you're confined between choices 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So you notice 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 right there. So if I type 0, it's just going to keep me in a little lock, right? All the information that you're seeing here is what you saw earlier. Remember how we saw info 1 to the head? So it's pulling all that information. And you see there's choices right there. So you see how it says when number select equals 7, which we saw earlier in that var. And again, I apologize if I'm going a little bit too fast, but I think you got the idea. That file had the number 7 in it. It called it up. It does equal 7. So it says, hey, make choices this. And then what happens is choices are being set here. Not right here. See? So now you can see that once you make the correct choice, it's going to say set choice. You see right there? Choice user input is going to equal F choice. So when F choice equals 1, do this. See how there's that echo break? So it says echo break this. You see how it says echo 2 in the final choice, echo 3? So when we look at that choices we were talking about earlier, see right there? It executes 2, it executes 3. So that's what's happening. Now, when we look back at the original YML, and you see right here that while it says while it does not equal break, see? So you notice that every time, so when this whole thing is done, it's going to recall it again. It's going to say menu equals cat final choice. So if break is stuffed into this thing will break and take you out of this menu completely. And then you notice how it says here right before it does it, because you're still going downward, it's going to say if menu equals break, system message user selected to exit interface. And basically you back out to wherever you were prior. So if you notice I type 1, there it is right there. See? So it's a lot to take in, but the thing is I tried to make this thing modular. So in order for me to make sure that the right program executes, so let's go look at roles, menu start, and eventually you'll start seeing these disappear. No, see how like different each thing is? And look at this, there's just like code all over the place. So a lot of this will be cut down with the interface that I have. So where are we at? Not ports, not Union FS, yeah, there we go, settings. You see right there? Echo settings, var, PlexGuide type choice. We stuffed it in there. So you remember earlier I was talking about like type choice? Well, it knows that it's settings. So what happens is when you see that thing programs, let's see where we at. Menu, core, see right there? Program equals type choice, see? So what it's going to do is it's going to bring up settings. So settings var sh, settings file sh. So I'm trying to make this thing a little bit modular, a little bit easy to deploy. So now I can just create menus on the fly. So creating the one for the settings and the T-shoot, they each took about 25 minutes, for testing purposes. But normally they would take a lot longer. It could have taken me 1, 2, sometimes 3 hours just because of very selective things that it's doing. So like I said, you'll see most of these blue menus fading out. Right now, all the blue menus are faded out on the initial stuff. But again, you can still see them hiding around. Like, if I did processor. The question is, you're asking, well, why am I getting rid of the blue menus? The problem is the blue menus, you get rid of all this information above you. So if you were to have problems with, PlexGuide or Ansible or any other issues, you can copy and paste your problems. But with these menus, some of them tend to delete all your stuff. Some will allow you to see things. So you see here in this case it didn't. But it just starts confusing the whole process when you just see blue, script. So, and it's funny, one thing I didn't realize is that when you're using dialogue, all it's really doing is adjusting to the size of your screen. See? And then once you finish, it just kind of remembers it and it just keeps kind of going downward. So, the whole purpose of this is so you can basically see a lot of, if you see any issues, so if you see red, not the pinks, but if you see red, you can easily copy and paste stuff onto the form saying, hey, I got this error. And it's helped me detect many errors instead of writing a generic bash script. So you can see, let's see, number 11, I did this after 10, and it's basically following the same principle. See, there's those little lines, and everything is just clean. Just makes things easier. See, there's that exit, and that's pretty much it. So, again, if you do like this video, please subscribe, save, all the good stuff, thumbs up. If you got comments or even if you got questions, feel free to post. Again, the whole purpose of this program so we can all, help us all learn, understand other things. So I appreciate your time, and you have a good one.